Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be taking a look at the 2020 roster for the New York Excelsior, my personal favorite team. Last season they were 22-6 with a plus 40 differential, finishing third overall. They went into the playoffs with the number 2 seed, of course, though, as they were the Atlantic Division champions. But they didn't have as good of a record as San Francisco or Vancouver, so they were technically third overall in the standings. Now, New York is an interesting team. Now, the thing we all know about New York is, of course, they've always had a different style. They've never been a super aggressive team. They've always been a relatively passive team. They've always played relatively defensively. They've always kind of played around what the other person has done, so that's kind of always been what they do, and that's still a thing that is happening, that isn't going to change anytime soon. But we can look at the changes they've made and see how they have kind of evolved and grown. So this off season they let go of Flower, Neko, and then Pine retired, and they brought in 4 new players who we will talk about in a little bit. But let's start with their DPS players, because I think their DPS players are one of the more interesting parts of this roster. Of course, they have their team captain, Sabiolbi, who I would expect to get a lot more play time this season, as we saw him, of course, get a lot more play time late in the season last season, and whenever Sombra was being played, that's when he started to kind of get most of his play time. So I'd expect him to start to play a lot more this season, but maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Their DPS lineup is pretty good. It's obviously, I would never say that they have the 4 best DPS players in the world, but I don't think they need them. This is a roster, like, I'm just going to say it right here right now. This is a roster that I think is one of the best rosters in the league. And it's not so much that they have the best players, they just have players that work well together, and then they do what they need to do well. And I think that's part of why they have been such a good team so far for the first 2 seasons of the Overwatch League. And I still think that's going to be the case as the season carries on. But Sabiolbi, of course, known for his Tracer, plays some Widowmaker, some McCree, a little bit of Sombra, some Reaper. That's really what you're going to see him play. On the other side, of course, we've always had Libero, who, of course, plays a lot of Genji and Pharah and Hanzo and Junkrat and Mei, and he's the projectile player, and Libero is really good at that. He's very flexible. He has a lot of strengths in that hero pool, which is part of what makes him such a great player. And you pair that also with Nene, who plays the same heroes largely as Sabiolbi, so, it differs a little bit. I would say Tracer, or for Tracer, Sabiolbi's the better player. Nene, I would say, is the better Widowmaker. And McCree, but Sabiolbi, I think, is the better Sombra and the better Reaper. And the better Tracer, obviously. So, you pair that with their new DPS player, Who Are You? Now, Who Are You, of course, has a long history in the Overwatch League, formerly playing with Lunatic High, back in 2017, mostly in 2017. He won Overwatch Apex Season 2 and was the finals for the finals MVP. He won Apex Season 3 as well, still with Lunatic High. So he has a long history playing with Lunatic High, which of course is a lot of the people who went on to Soul Dynasty. So very, 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 very big moves there, and managing to do a lot to get onto a good roster from there. So then he went to Fusion University, and then from Fusion University he was on loan to Meta Athena, and then eventually on loan to Sky Foxes, and he is now on the NYXL. He just turned 18 in August, so this is the first time he's eligible to actually play in the Overwatch League. And he's, of course, going to be one of the players that New York has put a lot of time into hoping that he will be a star. He is once again a projectile player, So he's going to play a lot of the same stuff that we're going to see, or that we've seen out of Libero, the Genji, the Pharah, the Doomfist. He also plays some Tracer. I don't think his Tracer's as good as Sabiobi's, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen a lot of it myself. So this is a really good DPS lineup, and I think it's very flexible. And I think they're going to have a very similar, at least I would hope, they have a very similar style of DPS in the way that we saw the Shock do it kind of late in the season. Whereas I think they, maybe they don't. Maybe they choose to just roll the same two throughout the season. But I think we could see them kind of switch out depending on what the map is or that kind of stuff, because it's just such a strong DPS lineup that maybe if you need a little more of, obviously, like if Tracer is to become meta again, you're going to see a lot more Sabiobi. But if it's more Widowmaker, then we probably would see more Nene. And then, the Genji, I think Who Are You is very well known for its Genji, so maybe we'd see more Who Are You with Genji, but Libero maybe is a better Pharah, This is just me kind of spewing stuff, but we could see, I think, a lot of mixing and matching with these players. I think that's part of what makes this team really, really good, is they have a lot of flexibility in the damage lineup, that they can have different people paired together, and they can play around that very, very well, which I think is really, really good for this team. But I feel really good about their damage lineup. I think their damage lineup is really good. I don't have any issues with it. And the reason why I don't have any issues with it is because I think when you look at what they did, right, the one that they bring in is Who Are You. They bring in Who Are You, and they say, okay, we're going to focus on Who Are You, and we're going to try to make Who Are You part of the really big, major players, right? But if Who Are You doesn't play super well, it doesn't mesh well with the team, we still have Libero, and Libero is a really good player. And obviously, if Sabiobi doesn't play well, or Nene doesn't play well, you have the other one. And I think they have enough flexibility that their damage lineup is actually going to be very, very good. Because they signed enough players, and I don't have any question marks surrounding a lot of the players they have on the damage lineup, because we've seen them succeed in the past, and that's what matters the most, is that we have seen them do well. Let's take a look now at their tank line. Of course, for their main tank, they have Mono, arguably the best main tank in the world. Some people may not agree, some people may agree, you never know, but I would say Mono is one of the best main tanks in the world. He can play your Winston, he can play your Reinhardt, he can play your Orisa. He is very, very good, and I think he is one of the players who is going to be the most instrumental, of course, going forward in this season, trying to just win. But I think Mono is very important to this team's success, and I think he will be one of the most important parts, again, as he was in the past couple of seasons. Moving on to the flex tanks, of course, New York Excelsior now have 2 flex tank players when they used to only have Meko, and they have now Hotba and Bianca. And Hotba, of course, played with the Philadelphia Fusion back in the 2018 season, then played with the Guangzhou Charge in the 2019 season, and is now with the NYXL. Now, Hotba does have some pre-existing synergy and history playing with LW Red, which means he played with Nene, and he probably also, because he was on LW Red, had some experience also playing with other players on LW Blue, even if it wasn't necessarily on the same team. They probably played a lot together just because they were in the same organization as the LW Blue players. So that's what's, I think, really important and really noteworthy about Hotba, is he has history playing with Nene, and I think he's a really good player. Now, his big thing is that he's flexible, and he can play some damage dealers, and he can play some flex tank, and I don't really expect that to ever really be a thing that happens, because why would you put him in a damage role when you have damage players who are really good, and you have to have a flex tank player play a flex tank hero? But I think Hotba and Bianca together make a very good core of flex tanks. I thought Hotba was one of the best Sigmas that we saw in the playoffs last season, or in the play-ins that we saw last season. I thought he was really, really good. So I want to give like all credit to Hotba because I thought Hotba played really well. And maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly because he only played one map or one match, and it was against Seoul. But I thought Hotba played Sigma pretty well. Maybe not one of the best. I thought he played it well though. So I like what Hotba has. Bianca, of course, comes from XL2 Academy, so he was playing a decent amount of Sigma as well in Gauntlet and in Contender Season 2. And XL2 did pretty well in both of those. Well, in Contender Season 2, they got second. The Gauntlet, they got 5th through 6th. They lost to Atlanta, but Atlanta got 2nd place. And XL2 did a pretty good job doing what they needed to do. So these are two players who I think are best known for their diva play. So we'll see how things go. I really like Hoppa, and I think Bianca is a good addition as well. I think Hoppa's a good stable flex tank, and I think he'll probably be the starter at the beginning of the season. If it's Sigma, because I think that he had some good Sigma play, but I think it's a smart idea to assign two, because if one doesn't play super well, you just put in the other one. And it helps that you can just kind of have Hotba in the back or Bianca in the back just learning and improving, because I think you probably will eventually see a number of changes in the flex tank position. You know, New York has always been a team that's made substitutions. They didn't do it so much in 2019. They did a lot more in 2018. But I think we might see them go back to that. But maybe not. They do have a new head coach now, so I don't know if IMT is a big substitute guy, unlike Pavan, who did it a lot. But we'll see, I guess. Finally, we have the support line. They have Jonak, of course, still one of the only two players in the Overwatch League to have played every single map for every single match that he has been a part of. It is him and Big Goose, and that is it. Those are the only two people that have done it. Jonak, of course, was the MVP back in 2018, is incredible known for his Zenyatta play, and also his very good Ana play. And he was kind of the focal point of NYXL's success in 2018. 2019 didn't play as well, though still played very well. And I look at Jonak, and I look at the way that NYXL have played, and he's definitely the focal point of this team. Though Mono has definitely become also a very big part of their success, and I think you have to look at those two as kind of where they're going to play around. And we'll see what happens in the new system with IMT. But that was the way they were playing in the playoffs, was the IMT system. So I'm curious to see how it changes going forward, but I still expect Jonak to be one of the major focal points of this team. For main support, they have Animo, and Animo, I think, has been very, very good since he joined this team. He has been a consistently good player. I haven't really had an issue with him. He's probably the weakest player on this roster, but I mean, he's still really good, so that's not really I mean, I guess it's a bash on him, kind of, but I still think he's one of the best main supports that is in the league. I think he's been playing very well, but they also brought in Mandu, a main support player coming from O2 Blast. Now, Mandu is 17 until June, and then he turns 18, of course, and we'll see if he gets a lot of play. He's known for his Lucio and his Baptiste. Animo is more known for his Mercy and his Lucio. So my guess is Mandu is there mainly for the Baptiste. I don't know if he's a better Lucio or not. I don't know if Animo is that good on Baptiste. We haven't seen a lot of him on Baptiste, so we'll see. But I think that these two support players are going to be doing pretty well. Probably by the time Mandu is eligible to play, he'll probably start playing a lot more. But I guess it depends on the meta, really, who we see at that point. But I don't know. I really don't know how to predict that kind of stuff, because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I would imagine they brought in Mandu to play over Animo when he's old enough. So I would expect that that's what happens. But that is all of the players. As I said earlier, I think this is a really good team. I think they are going to win the Atlantic Conference again. I think they're just the best team in the Atlantic still. I still think there's some other good teams. I think, Atlanta's looking really good. I think Philly's looking good. But I think New York is still better. And they're not going to, I don't think they're going to run away with the conference. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win the conference either, if there was a team like Atlanta who won it, because Atlanta also looks really, really good. But I like what we have seen out of the changes from NYXL, and I liked what we saw from the NYXL in the playoffs. I thought that their playoff run was really good, and it was really telling of what IMT is going to try to do with this team. And I think when you look at how they've changed their team, and you look at Hotba, and you look at who are you is notoriously known for being a very aggressive DPS player. Hotba can kind of play alongside that in that aggressive manner. So New York, I think, is going to try to change their style of play. I don't think they're going to play the same way we've been seeing them play. I think we're going to see a lot more of playoff NYXL next season, and that to me is very exciting. I think this is going to be one of the better teams in the league. I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the league. And of course, I'll give my power rankings here in a couple of weeks, but I think they're a team to watch out for. I think they're going to once again be a top team in the league. I think they're that good. Even if they haven't won a championship yet, maybe this is the year they do it. I still think they're really good, and I think they have a really big chance to make a really good run because I think they have all the pieces they need. They may not be the best roster on paper. I think they are a very good roster on paper, but they may not be the best roster on paper. But from what we've seen from them in terms of their former seasons and their synergy and all that kind of stuff, like we know how good they are. So I would expect this team to be one of the top teams in the league once again, because I just think they're that good of an organization, and they have players that are that good that even if they're not the best, they're able to play to their peaks consistently because the players around them and the coaching staff around them and just the system around them helps them out. Now, maybe the travel impacts them more. I think playing in front of a home crowd would be incredible for this team because they've never done it. And they've always wanted to play in front of New York fans. And I know New York fans are crazy. So I think that's something that'll help them out. They open the season in New York. I think that could really be a big boost to them. They don't have to travel right at the beginning of the season. And they get to be home. That's pretty good for them. So we'll see what happens for them. But I think this is a team that I would still expect to be very, very good. It just maybe they're not as good as people think they are. Maybe they're better than people think they are. We'll have to wait and see. But that is all that I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on the NYXL down in the comments below. But if you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. But I am going to get out of here, so thank you once again. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.